What's up, everybody? This is Mario, and I'm back with another episode of Endurify. And this is a very special episode of Endurify because I'm recording on March 10th. And of course, you're familiar with the significance of March 10th, right? So I asked my team this today. I asked them, what is the significance of March 10th? And they threw out all of these historical examples. They researched, certain celebrities. It was their birthdays, and no one got the answer correct. But March 10th is actually National Mario Day. And that's because March 10th is a day where we recognize our iconic character from the popular video game Mario. And it's an annual celebration of all things Mario. And so fans decided that it would take place on March 10th every year because the date, March 10th, looks exactly like Mario. So this is a National Mario Day episode of Endurify, which is quite special. And what I want to do today is I want to continue to build on what we've been talking about with focus and with discipline. And these are just some things that I've been learning from the recent Growth Day talk. And so we've been talking about, kind of what are those four questions that you can ask yourself to get more focus and four kind of key points around discipline. But what I want to share today is from Brendon Burchard, and it's 3 states of mind where your mind consciously and unconsciously is going at all times, depending on whatever your focus is. So, if you remember, if you've listened to some of the previous episodes, one of those first questions that you want to ask yourself is, what do you need to be focused on in March? It can be, what do you need to be focused on this month, or what do you need to be focused on this week? But once you're focused on that goal and you start to take some of the necessary steps, you start to schedule some things in your calendar, you start to make progress towards it, your mind is going to start to go to some interesting places. And if you're not prepared for the different places where your mind is going to go, then it might not go where you want it to go. And you need to be aware of what are these different kind of thoughts of mind, or these different places where your mind can go, so that you can be aware of it and that you can act accordingly and act responsibly. So that's what I want to talk about today. It was something new that I learned, and I think it is relevant for us as endurance athletes. I think it's relevant for us as people who, have a lot going on with either our businesses, with work, with family, and ultimately it's something that's going to help you become the best version of yourself. And so that's what I want to share with you today. So these are 3 states of mind where your mind consciously or unconsciously goes at all times, regardless of what your focus is. So the first one is a progressing state of mind. So depending on what your goal is, let's say it's a half Ironman or an Ironman, or it's you launching a podcast like I have been doing. Your mind sometimes goes to that state of mind of progress. And a lot of times our brain or our mind asks, okay, now that I'm doing this, what's next? And this is where you really want to get your brain into motion again, because when you're in motion, that's what brings aliveness. It's when it brings meaningfulness and progress into your next steps. Because if we don't have progress towards our focus or towards our goal, our mind is going to get restless and frustrated. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, where you just feel like you're in a plateau or you're stuck. Maybe it's a project at work. Maybe it's your training that you're going through. But if you ever feel like you're not making progress and you're stuck, that's when your mind gets frustrated. And so it's really something that you want to pay attention to, because you really need to develop that sense of momentum. Because once you get momentum, this is when you gain confidence, you gain competence, and the ability to move forward with intention. So, as you're training for a half Ironman, an Ironman, or whatever that endurance event is for you, if you find yourself in that sense of, okay, I'm making progress. This week I'm able to do this longer run when last week I wasn't able to. If you feel that progress, you're going to feel really good about it. But if if you're stuck and if you're in a plateau, you're not going to feel that sense of progress. So that's the first kind of state of mind, which is progressing. Now, this second state of mind can happen where maybe you're progressing and you're going from one distance to another distance, from one week to the other, or 1 month you're only supposed to do a 1 hour run, but the next month you have an hour and a half or a 2 hour run. And sometimes that can create some resistance where it's like, whoa, I don't know if I can run for 2 hours, or I don't know if I can swim for 1,600 meters. I don't know if I can bike for 3 hours. If you ever have those thoughts and those feelings, that's when you're in that second state of mind, which is protecting. And this is where, in the protecting state of mind, your mental chatter is built on protecting ourselves, both physically and emotionally. It's kind of trying to keep you in that survival mode. And, sometimes this is helpful and it's needed when you're in a situation where there's a real threat, where you could actually be injured. But you don't want to allow your brain to fall into this thought process all of the time, because this is, where you can actually limit yourself. And so I've experienced this a little bit recently, where I've been thinking about how can I keep the podcast fresh, and how can I, start to take it to the next level. And one of the things that I want to do that has, is definitely part of my long-term plans, and it was actually suggested to me by one of my friends who's listening to this, and that's interviewing other guests, bringing on other coaches, bringing on other experts in endurance, in mindset, in nutrition, and starting to interview them so that I can get their perspectives, and so that I can learn, and so that, everybody else who's listening to this can learn from that as well. But when I started to think about that, my mind started going into but I don't know, you don't have time for this, or, how are you going to set up those interviews? How are you going to record them? What if people like them? What if people don't like them? And my mind went to this state of protecting. It's trying to protect me from some things that could potentially go wrong. But that is, kind of completely made up. And this is, this is just an example of that protecting state of mind at play. And when you experience those thoughts, it's really important to turn your focus to something that's a lot more useful. And so if you have, kind of put the work in personal development, or if you've put the work in even with training, with endurance, then you can kind of override this mindset, and you can just be kind of in control of your thoughts. So the key thing that I also think about here, like when it comes to endurance, is, let's say you're looking at your training plan for the next month, and you see, a really long bike ride. It might be 3 or 4 hours if you're training for an Ironman, where right now you're only doing 1 to 2 hours, and your mind just kind of goes to that protecting thought of, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if your body can tolerate that. This is where you need to remind yourself that, ease is not the goal. You don't want it to be easy, but it's all about making progress and putting the work in day after day, week after week, month after month, and slowly progressing. And if you do that, then you will be okay. And so those are the first two states of mind. The first one is the progressing state of mind, where you're, trying to make progress. You're trying to gain momentum. The second one is the protecting state of mind. And that can come from progress that you're making or progress that you're not making, where your mind kind of starts to unconsciously try and protect you from things that could go wrong. This third one is called the processing state of mind. And so for anybody who's listening to this who is like super analytical, those deep thinkers, this is likely you. This is your thinking mind. And this is where your mind is kind of very inquisitive, and your mind is thinking and wondering, how are things going to turn out, and what's next? What could go wrong? And this is where you can start to experience that analysis paralysis, which, if you've ever been in a situation, maybe in business, where you're trying to figure out what's the right decision. Do we go this route? Do we go that route? You start to analyze all of the different options, and there isn't a clear decision of what is the best thing to do. So you start to think, I need more time to make a decision. This is an example of your processing mind at play. And really, when you're in this situation, kind of the most powerful thing to do when you're in this processing state of mind is to close it and to try and move into that progressing state of mind, because you don't want to just be in this analysis paralysis thinking for a really long time. Now, when it comes to endurance events, a lot of times this can pop up if you don't have a training plan, because you might be thinking, oh, should I bike this long? Should I run this long? Should I swim? Should I do a brick workout today? Should I not do that today? Should I do a strength workout today? You have all of these potential options that you can do, and you start to get into this analysis paralysis. But that's really the benefit of working with a coach, getting a training plan, working with somebody who knows what they're doing, so that you don't need to overanalyze your workouts, and you can just trust the process and trust that they're all working together, and that it's going to lead to your success on race day. So that is kind of that third kind of state of mind when it comes to focus. So just kind of to recap, we've talked about the progressing state of mind. We've talked about when you're focused on gaining momentum. We've also talked about the protecting state of mind, where maybe if you're ramping up your workouts or you're starting to make progress, your mind might try and protect you from all of the potential things that could go wrong. And this third state of mind, which is the processing state of mind, where you're analytical, you're in that analysis paralysis state of mind. So, why am I saying all of this? I think it's just really important, like I said at the beginning, that if we're trying to develop focus and if we're trying to accomplish these big goals that we have with endurance, with our businesses, with the things that we want to create, whenever you're focused on a big goal like that, your mind is going to go consciously and unconsciously to these different places. And what I want to do is I want to share those states of mind with you, so that when you find yourself thinking about something and you're paying attention to those thoughts, then you can say, oh, okay, I'm in the protecting state of mind. I'm going to move forward and I'm going to close that, and I'm going to make some progress. When you're, feeling stuck, when you're in a plateau, you can understand, okay, I'm in the progressing state of mind. I need to make a decision and move forward quickly. And kind of that same thing with the processing state of mind. So this is where I want to bring it back to you and, kind of ask you, as you're thinking about that big focus that you have for this month or for this year, if it's a race, if it's something that you're working on, a project, something else that you have going on, where has your mind been going lately? Has it been going to the progressing state of mind, the protecting state of mind, or the processing state of mind? And what's one thing that you can do to move forward with that? So that's what I have for you today. Those are kind of the three states of mind. I hope that served you, and I hope you all have an amazing day.